Now, another thing about Liverpool is they had this idea, because it was a river and they wanted to be a shipping port. Boats came up the river and they moored up alongside a wall or whatever. And then the tide went out. And the tide going out makes life a little bit difficult for unloading boats. I mean, you can still do it. But when you're left on the mud and then the tide comes in again, the boat comes back up and you can adjust the ropes and you can start unloading the boat and the tide goes out again. So they came up with this idea, which was based on the canal idea. And they thought, well, if you have like a bit of a canal that's a dead end, you can have the same gates, like a canal gate on the end, call it a dock, okay? And then you can, when they wait to high tide, open the gates, sail the boat in, shut the gates, and then when the tide goes out, hopefully the water will stay there. It'll still leak out a bit, but not enough, and so the boat can be unloaded next to the wall just exactly how you want it to be, and that'll make unloading boats a lot quicker. Anyway, they built the first dock like this in 1710. I think it took about 5 or 6 years to finish it, and boom, they're like, whoa, we can unload these boats really, really fast like this. I mean, it might have even had a little bit of a stream going into it to top it up, I don't know, but they were like, wow. And so the boats were queuing up outside to get in the lock, and as soon as the ship's unloaded, next high tide, gates open, boat out, next boat in, shut, get that boat unloaded, and all of a sudden they were making loads of money, because time is money in business. If you can save time, you can make more money. And very soon afterwards they thought, we need to build another dock. And other cities around the world were going, ooh, ooh, look at that. It was the first one. It was the first one in the world. It's built in Liverpool. And before you know what happened, because the edges of the River Mersey were so shallow, they had to build the docks in the river. They had to build big walls in the river itself and lock gates and sail ships in, and before you knew what was happening, there was more and more and more docks grew out of the one dock, and it became a major shipping port and made shitloads of money, especially out of the slave trade. As I said, the banks in Liverpool owned the ships that sailed out and bought slaves. They also owned the plantations in the Caribbean and the Americas. Let's just say the Americas, because they were all over the place. And they bought the slaves, sold the sugar, and they imported the sugar to the UK and sold the sugar, so they got mammothly rich really fast, obviously at other people's expense. And the whole city grew and flourished from the slave trade, unfortunately. I'm ashamed to say, but I'm not trying to justify it in any way, but everybody was doing it at the time, the French, the Dutch. Yeah, it was bad for sure.